Welcome to APB, New York Chiefs, a service for New York's police executives. Now, Mr. Mark Spawn, Director of Research, Development, and Training for the New York State Association of Chiefs of Police.
The New York State Crime Victims Board provides direct compensation to eligible crime victims and funds a network of victims assistance programs across the state. Victims assistance programs provide a wide range of services, including counseling, advocacy, and legal representation, and also help crime victims fill out applications so they can receive compensation from the Crime Victims Board. Police officers are required by law to notify victims about the Crime Victims Board and the services provided by it and victims assistance programs across the state. With us today is Tina M. Stanford, Chairwoman of the New York State Crime Victims Board, who will talk about officers' responsibilities when it comes to crime victims notification, and also more about the Crime Victims Board and its mission. Chairwoman Stanford, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Could you tell us more about the law requiring police officers to notify victims about the Crime Victims Board and other victim assistance programs?
It would be my pleasure. Police officers who respond to a crime scene are required by law to notify victims about the compensation and services available from the board and the local victims assistance programs, or what we call VAPs for short, in their community. This law was enacted in July 2006, and the idea behind it was that victims can't access services and assistance if they don't know what's available to them. The Crime Victims Board and its entire staff are committed to providing eligible victims with compensation and assistance they need during a very difficult time in their lives. The work we do can never erase what happened, but it is our hope, of course, that we can provide a measure of comfort, support, and peace of mind that can allow victims to reclaim their lives. Officers, as you know, have initial contact with victims, so they are key partners in helping us make that happen.
Chairwoman, how does the Crime Victims Board help police officers make those notifications?
Many years ago, the board created information cards and distributed more than 3 million of them to police departments and sheriff's offices statewide so that officers would have the information at their fingertips when they respond to calls for service. On the front of the card is the address and telephone number of the board's 3 offices in Albany, Brooklyn, and Buffalo, and our toll-free number, 1-800-247-8035, and our website, www.cvb.state.ny.us, as well as a place for the officer to write the name and phone number of a local victim assistance program. And on the back side of the card is a brief description of the help that is available.
Chairwoman, you mentioned that there's place on the back of the card for officers to write local victims assistance program information. That could be places like domestic violence shelters, rape crisis services, and the like in the local community?
Yes.
Excellent. How can police officers get copies of that card?
Well, officers can download the card from the CVB website, or they can order them directly from our office. They can call the board, again, at the toll-free number and request them. They can download them from the site, and there's a simple procedure for doing that.
Telephone number, if they choose to call the board, is 1-800-247-8035, right?
That's correct.
What other type of outreach does the board do?
In addition to the cards, we provide a detailed booklet titled The Rights of Victims in New York State to district attorneys' offices, which are required by law to distribute them. The board provides grants to many DA's offices in the states, grants that fund victim and witness assistance programs, and those advocates distribute that information. The board also printed and distributed posters about its services to police departments, sheriff's office, district attorney's office, and hospitals across the state. And we've also had our website made more user-friendly for crime victims, victims assistance professionals, and law enforcement, and recently partnered with the Buffalo Sabres hockey team to produce a 30-second public service announcement which was played at home games and on TV stations in Buffalo. We'd love to partner with other sports teams in New York State also.
That sounds like a great approach. Mm-hmm. Is that video on your website?
It is, and it's great.
I thought
I'd
really seen
is.
that. You mentioned that the card contains a brief description of services that the board provides. Can you describe some of the ways the board helps crime victims?
The Crime Victims Board offers compensation related to personal injury, death, and loss of essential personal property. For example, specific expenses the board may cover include medical and counseling expenses, loss or damage of essential personal property, burial, funeral expenses, lost wages or lost support, including lost wages of parents if a child victim is hospitalized. Necessary court appearances for prosecution will incur transportation costs that we would assist with. Occupational, vocational rehabilitation, moving expenses, and crime scene cleanup.
Who might be eligible for compensation?
There are a variety of criteria detailing who may be eligible. Here are some examples. Victims of crime who were physically injured as a result of crime, victims of crime who are under 18, 60 and older, or disabled who were not physically injured, those who paid for or incurred burial costs for an innocent crime victim, child victims, a child who witnessed a crime, and the child's parent, step-parent, grandparent, guardian, brother, sister, step-brother, or step-sister, and certain victims of unlawful imprisonment, kidnapping, stalking, or labor or sex trafficking. We also rely on police officers to help us determine a victim's role, if any, in the crime. Under the state's executive law, which governs the board's work, compensation is provided to innocent victims. So we work very closely with the investigating detectives to determine, for example, was the victim committing a crime at the time the crime was committed against the victim? Did that crime precipitate the crime against the victim? Did the victim's actions contribute to their injuries? This information is very useful to the board members in deciding whether or not this person is an innocent victim of crime.
Does a perpetrator have to be arrested and convicted for a victim to receive compensation?
No. In fact, compensation is not dependent upon conviction or arrest. However, a victim must have reported the crime to a criminal justice agency, which includes DA's offices, if it's a direct indictment that proceeds, or an arresting law enforcement agency. And the victim must have cooperated in the investigation or the prosecution of the case if someone is apprehended.
And this is just so your office can make an objective assessment of what services may be merited.
That's correct.
And the claims must be filed within a certain period of time, correct?
Yes, within 1 year of the crime, but they can also be filed beyond that time frame if good cause is shown for the delay. And we even have accepted not knowing about the services of the Crime Victims Board as a good reason.
Is there a limit to how much a victim can be compensated for their losses or expenses?
There is a cap on some payments made by the board. For example, maximum amount for a loss of support claim is $30,000, funeral expenses $6,000, and essential personal property, eyeglasses, or a piece of furniture, clothing, for example, is $500. But there is no cap on medical or therapy payments related to a physical injury. For example, if someone suffers a traumatic brain injury as a result of a shooting, the board will pay medical bills indefinitely. One other thing that is very important to note, however, is that the Crime Victims Board is the payer of last resort, which means that all other sources of compensation or entitled benefits must be exhausted before the board can pay a claimant for out-of-pocket losses related to the crime. So if they had insurance, they would go to their insurance first, and we would assist with things like co-payments or things that the insurance doesn't cover. Benefits must first be obtained by those other sources. Again, insurance, workers' compensation, automotive, and homeowners, renters insurance, and we will assist with anything that's left after that.
Anything else that you'd like police officers to know or police executives to know about the Crime Victims Board?
Well, I just want to reiterate the fact that they are key partners with us in assisting victims. They are on the front lines. They are the first one, in most instances, to meet a victim of crime. And it's imperative at that moment that the victim know that there are services provided by the state available to them. And if the police officer would at least share that information, then we can begin the process of assisting.
Thank you, Chairwoman Tina Stanford, for your time today. We appreciate you joining us here on APB.
Thank you.
For more information about the New York State Crime Victims Board and to download forms and publications, visit cvb.state.ny.us.
Thanks for joining Mark Spawn for APB, New York Chiefs. If you have a suggestion for a future APB topic, call us at 518-355-3371 or email at apb@nychiefs.org.